Could the 2025 Mercedes W16 be the revolution all fans of the Silver Star have been waiting for? After years of failed attempts, strategic errors, and even Lewis Hamilton's departure to Ferrari, will this be the year Mercedes returns to dominate Formula One? Mercedes' recent history in Formula One is a cautionary tale of how even the most powerful empires can falter if they don't evolve at the same speed with which they once dominated. From their crushing dominance during the hybrid era, where they managed to string together 8 consecutive constructors' titles between 2014 and 2021, to their slow decline in the following seasons, Mercedes' decline wasn't abrupt, but gradual, almost imperceptible at first. The 2022 season marked the first major breakthrough. They opted for the radical zero-pod concept, eliminating conventional side pods in favor of an ultra-slim design that promised to revolutionize aerodynamics, but in practice brought a series of unexpected problems. Aerodynamic bounce, known as porpoising, severely affected the car's stability, forcing hasty modifications and affecting not only on-track performance but also the confidence of drivers Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. During 2023, Mercedes attempted to correct its course with a partial redesign, maintaining some principles of the zero pod, but trying to moderate its negative effects. The W14 presented improvements, but it was not enough to regain the level of competitiveness they needed to face a Red Bull in full swing and a Ferrari that was beginning to establish itself as a growing force. Inconsistency was once again the common denominator. Some weekends showed flashes of brilliance, while others revealed a car that was difficult to balance, unpredictable in its behavior between sessions, and extremely sensitive to track conditions. Race strategies, once impeccable, also began to falter, reflecting an internal organization struggling to adapt to a much more dynamic and competitive Formula One environment. In 2024, without the technical radicalism of previous years, Mercedes opted for a more conservative concept with the W15, but the results still failed to live up to its legacy. Despite George Russell and Lewis Hamilton achieving stage victories, the season was marked by inconsistency. The W15 suffered from 2 fundamental problems: difficulty turning in slow corners, which compromised its performance on urban and technical circuits, and an alarming inconsistency in tire temperature management. This caused extreme variations in the car's performance from one session to the next, making it virtually impossible to predict whether a weekend would be competitive or disastrous. For a team that built its dynasty on predictability and operational excellence, this new reality was a crushing blow. The situation worsened further with the announcement that Lewis Hamilton, the team's living legend and one of the pillars upon which Mercedes' golden era was built, would be leaving the team at the end of the season to join Ferrari. His departure not only meant the loss of one of the greatest drivers of all time, but also the disappearance of a central figure within the team, someone who had provided experience, leadership, and a technical development capacity that few could match. The responsibility of leading Mercedes' renaissance would then fall on George Russell, who, although talented and already established as a top-level driver, had yet to prove he could guide an entire team to title success in the post-Hamilton era. At his side would be the young Italian prodigy Kimi Antonelli, whose arrival represented both a commitment to the future and a clear sign that Mercedes was willing to build a new identity from the ground up. This context of transformation, internal doubts, and external pressure is the true starting point for understanding the magnitude of the challenge facing Mercedes in 2025. It's not just about designing a fast car. It's about rebuilding confidence, redefining the work culture, and rediscovering the hunger for victory that once made them invincible. The W16, therefore, is not just a new car. It's the symbol of an existential commitment, of a team that knows that every decision it makes in this new era could mean the difference between returning to the top or prolonging its fall. The Mercedes W16 project was born from the most pressing need a historic team can face, to prove it can still reinvent itself. From the first sketch to the day of its official unveiling on February 24, 2025, the W16 was not simply conceived as a further evolution within current technical parameters, but as a complete course correction. Under the technical direction of James Allison, Mercedes made the decision to no longer follow previous development lines, which had generated inconsistent and difficult to exploit cars. Instead of iterating on the past, they decided to rethink everything, starting from a more conventional aerodynamic philosophy but executed with a level of technical sophistication that sought to recover the fundamentals that once made them unbeatable. Every design decision in the W16 was evaluated through the prism of necessity and effectiveness. The fundamental flaw of the W15 had been its inability to offer predictable behavior both in slow corners and in tire thermal management. Therefore, work began on the areas where these defects were most evident. The front suspension was completely redesigned to offer better articulation and control on corner entry, allowing for more agile cornering without compromising stability. The bodywork beneath the car's skin also underwent a complete overhaul, with substantial changes that, while not always visible to the naked eye, radically altered the way the airflow interacts with the car's various elements. One of the most notable innovations was the new side pod concept, characterized by a dual air intake system with a vertical slot extending from the floor to the upper lip, covering a more traditional horizontal inlet. This bold combination was designed to maximize aerodynamic efficiency while maintaining effective cooling of the engine and internal systems, a critical balance in today's Formula One where every degree of temperature can mean the difference between victory and retirement. Furthermore, the adoption of more developed side wings provided more precise control of lateral flow, a natural but vastly improved evolution of the problematic zero-pod concept of previous years. The aesthetics of the W16 also conveyed a powerful message. The disappearance of the signature Ineos red in favor of a livery that blended traditional silver with deep black was more than a matter of design. It was a statement of principles. Mercedes wanted to reconnect with its heritage, with its original Silver Arrows identity, but it also wanted to make it clear that this was a new era, more sober, more focused, more committed to technical excellence than to commercial agreements or symbolic gestures. The public reception was immediate and positive, reinforcing the idea that Mercedes had understood not only its technical failings but also the need to restore its image with a fan base that demands results. Within the team, the atmosphere had also changed. Far from the rumblings of tension and the suffocating pressure of recent years, the launch of the W16 was marked by a sense of renewed purpose. George Russell spoke publicly about the more disciplined and methodical approach they had adopted during the development phase, a crucial difference from the more reactive mentality that characterized previous projects. The team aimed to eliminate all improvisation. Every decision, every design change, every suspension or aerodynamic adjustment had to have a clear justification based on data, not hasty intuition. The W16, in short, represents not just a new car, but a new mentality at Mercedes. A return to the roots that made them great, combined with a willingness to learn from recent mistakes. Its design doesn't seek to be the most radical or the most striking. Its goal is to be the most effective, the most balanced, the most consistent throughout a championship that is expected to be more demanding and volatile than ever. Because for Mercedes, the 2025 season is not just another campaign. It is the decisive moment to demonstrate whether they can be great again or whether, on the contrary, they will be relegated to the memory of a glorious era they failed to prolong. The true measure of any Formula One project's success lies not in its presentation or its previous promises, but in its performance under the real pressure of the track. For Mercedes and its W16, the first taste of reality came during pre-season testing in Bahrain, where the Brackley-based team needed clear signs more than ever that past mistakes had been corrected. From the start of testing, it was clear that the W16 was not a simple rework of the previous model. Its handling on the road was visibly more grounded, with greater stability both on corner entry and exit, and a better ability to maintain consistency in long stints, two critical areas where the W15 had repeatedly failed. During race simulation testing in Bahrain, Mercedes directly competed with rivals such as McLaren and Ferrari. The performance gap, which in 2024 was often alarming, had narrowed considerably. On long runs, the W16 showed controlled tire degradation, allowing its drivers to maintain competitive times lap after lap without the car becoming unpredictable. However, caution was still necessary. Although the overall balance was positive, there were still questions about its ability to extract maximum performance on low-fuel setups and fresh tires, where McLaren seemed to continue to hold a slight advantage. Consistency in the race had been achieved, but explosiveness in qualifying remained an area for improvement. The Australian Grand Prix, the first round of the calendar, represented the next major test for Mercedes. Under tricky conditions, with fluctuating temperatures and the threat of rain, George Russell managed to squeeze the W16's potential to achieve an important podium finish, sending a clear message that Mercedes was once again in the conversation for the pole positions. His performance was solid, avoiding mistakes and demonstrating that the car could adapt to a technical and demanding circuit. Kimi Antonelli, in his official debut, managed to score important points, showing maturity and speed for someone just starting his journey in the Premier class. However, not everything was perfect. In free practice sessions, both Russell and Antonelli had tense moments, especially Russell's spin in the first sector after hitting the grass, a reminder that confidence at the limit still needed to be built carefully. At the Chinese Grand Prix, the second round of the season, Mercedes' progress was even more evident. George Russell once again took the podium, confirming that the W16's competitiveness was not circumstantial, but the fruit of a well-designed technical platform. The car's consistency in race conditions was maintained, although in qualifying it remained clear that the last tenth of pure performance, the difference between starting on the front or second row, was still elusive for the German team. This pattern cemented the perception that the W16 was a car that rewarded strategic intelligence and race management more than pure Saturday aggression. The third round came in Japan, where the Suzuka circuit, with its unique combination of high-speed corners, demanded maximum aerodynamic commitment and technical precision. There, although Mercedes failed to beat Red Bull or McLaren, it showed its package was solid enough to remain within the top 5 under normal conditions. Antonelli continued to progress, quickly adapting to the demands of the track and showing an early understanding of how to manage tires in a high-degradation scenario. The balance sheet after 3 Grands Prix revealed a nuanced picture. Mercedes had corrected many of the technical flaws that had doomed them in previous seasons. The W16 was more predictable, more versatile, and above all, more reliable in the race. However, the battle for the championship would require something more. They would need to fine-tune their qualifying performance, better exploit the mid-season updates, and maintain high morale in an environment where every mistake could be amplified by media pressure and internal expectations. Team principal Toto Wolff emphasized in various interviews that while progress was palpable, the real challenge would be maintaining an upward development curve throughout the championship, avoiding the strategic and technical errors that in the recent past cost them championships that seemed within reach. Mercedes was, therefore, at a crossroads. The W16 had proven to be the car they needed to re-enter the competitive elite, but the question hanging over Brackley was deeper. Would they also have the resilience, strategic vision, and unquenchable hunger to translate that potential into titles? Or would they be trapped in a limbo of unfulfilled promises, overshadowed by rivals who had learned to evolve faster? The 2025 season was just beginning, but the margin for error for a team once synonymous with perfection was now practically non-existent. The 2025 season represents something much bigger for Mercedes than a mere opportunity to score wins or championship points. It is the turning point that will determine whether the team can effectively reinvent itself or whether it will be trapped in an endless transition, haunted by the shadows of its glorious past. The W16 is not simply a new car. It is a manifesto of principles for a team that has understood, perhaps finally, that in modern Formula One, it's not enough to be intermittently good. The requirement is to be consistently excellent, adapting to every circuit, every technical change, and every new challenge posed by fierce and constantly evolving competition. What has been seen so far indicates that Mercedes has made significant progress. It has corrected fundamental errors that for years undermined its chances of competing head-to-head with McLaren, Ferrari, or Red Bull. It has recovered a more rigorous work philosophy, where design, strategy, and operational execution converge under a single premise, eliminating weaknesses before they become defeats. The presence of George Russell as the new, mature, and determined leader, along with the raw potential of Kimi Antonelli, offers Mercedes a solid foundation on which to build its immediate and medium-term future. But this partial resurgence still needs to be confirmed over the course of a relentless season, where any lapse can be very costly. The competition in 2025 is relentless. McLaren leads with a level of consistency and evolution reminiscent of the best moments in its recent history, while Ferrari, boosted by the arrival of Lewis Hamilton, shows glimpses of a latent threat that could materialize at any moment. Red Bull, although shaken by internal changes and technical challenges, remains a force impossible to underestimate. In this context, Mercedes cannot afford a single misstep. Media pressure, fan expectations, and the weight of its legacy will make every race, every qualifying session, every pit stop a test of its ability to remain among the elite. The challenge facing Mercedes goes far beyond a championship. It is about defining its identity in this new era of Formula One. It is not enough to build a competitive car. They must rebuild the mystique, the culture of excellence that once made them untouchable. Every update to the W16, every strategic decision during a Grand Prix, every maneuver its drivers make on track will be part of a larger narrative, a fight to regain the respect and fear they inspired among their rivals for years. Now, the fundamental question remains, and I invite you to reflect on it. Will the Mercedes W16 be the car that returns the silver star to the top, or will it be just another failed attempt in its long reconstruction? Will George Russell be able to carry the heavy legacy left by Lewis Hamilton on his shoulders? Will Kimi Antonelli be the new jewel that finally consolidates this generational transition? Or, on the contrary, will we see Mercedes definitively hand over the baton to a new generation of dominant teams? Give me your opinion. Do you think Mercedes is truly in a position to fight for the title this season, or does it still need one more step in its evolution? Do you trust Russell and Antonelli to bring the project to fruition, or do you see McLaren, Ferrari, or Red Bull as too strong to allow it? I want to read you in the comments.